There's many facets that make up a successful professional speaker. Some of them are related to how you run your business. Others are related to how you perform as a speaker. Well, today we're going to address your performance and specifically your slide presentations. I could write an entire book on all of the intricacies for a slide presentation. What colors work best, how much text should go on a slide, should you have animations, what copyright laws relate to photographs and movies, should you use sound effects on your slides, where are the best places to get pre-designed slides, should you even use pre-designed slides, what kind of remote controls are the best, which is better, PowerPoint by Microsoft or Keynote by Mac. The list goes on and on. Well, today we're going to start with the function of having slides in the first place. If your slides don't meet the basic function or purpose, then all the other details on creating a professional slide is pretty much going to be pointless. So why do professional speakers use slides in the first place? Ideally, the slide should enhance the learning environment and add greater dimension to what the speaker is saying based upon the imagery of the slide or the text. Remember this basic tenet when designing your slides. Only put on the slides what you want them to remember. Unfortunately, by the way, most speakers simply use their slides as a cheat sheet for what they're about to talk about. They use it to help them remember what they're saying. Now, I'd be lying if I said I've never used slides for this purpose myself, so I'm certainly not casting any stones here, all right? But the quality of my presentations are far better when the slides are not a crutch, but rather a complement. So how can you ensure they're complements instead of crutches? You got to do two things. Number one, memorize your slides and memorize your presentation. If you're constantly looking on the slides while you're speaking, you'll be looking unprepared. And you're going to look unprofessional, by the way. But if you consistently keep your eye contact with the audience and move through your slides without ever having to look at them, yet you're still talking about the appropriate topic that's on the slide, let me tell you, your audience is going to be impressed without even realizing why. There's going to be something different about you than from other speakers that they've seen. And it can come down to something as simple as that one artistic tactic of never having to look at your own slides. According to the seminal essay by George Miller, published by Psychological Review in 1956, he claims that people have a hard time remembering more than 7 unrelated pieces of data at once. Anything more than that, and a person might feel a sense of overwhelm. This study, by the way, says nothing about a human's ability to remember something on a visual aid. So when speaking schools tell you to limit the amount of information on a slide to no more than 7 and at the most 9 pieces of information, they're making those claims based upon misunderstood information. There is absolutely no scientific data that reinforces that claim. However, I think common sense does. It only makes sense that the more information you put on a slide, the more information somebody's going to try to remember. The less they remember, the more they might begin to feel overwhelmed with that information. So keep it simple. Limit the amount of information you put on a slide and keep it clean. A lot of open space on a slide makes the visual aid what they call breathable and visually more comfortable to the eye. There's a more important reason, by the way, to keep your slides simple. When you're speaking, you want your audience listening. And if they're busy transcribing never-ending amounts of data on a slide presentation, they're not going to be listening to what you're saying. And what's worse, when you want to transition to the next slide, someone who is slow at taking notes will inevitably raise their hand and ask you to slow down or back up a slide or halt your presentation until they've written down everything that you have on your slide. If the information is that important and it's that detailed, then you should probably have some sort of training manual accompanying the presentation, and the information should be there to begin with. Remember, your audience will write down everything you put on a slide, so limit what you put on the slide or they'll never stop writing and then they'll never begin listening. A few years back, I was the featured keynote at a prosperity conference in, I think it was Sarasota, Florida. I arrived a few hours early, so I had the opportunity for me to see the speaker before me. And his presentation was filled with pictures of him on vacation, standing in front of expensive cars, and rubbing elbows with celebrities. Mainly B-list celebrities, by the way. When he started speaking, there were about 60 people in the audience, and by the time he got finished, there were only 13. What went wrong? Well, he came across as arrogant and self-serving, which turned off the majority of his audience. His purpose of showing the photos were to inspire the audience to buy his products so they too could create an amazing life like his. But since a picture is worth 1,000 words, and all of his pictures had him in them, the way I calculated, he had probably about 200,000 words all about himself. By the very nature of his photos, he accomplished the equivalence of going to a social gathering and talking about himself nonstop. Make sure the 1,000 words your pictures reflect in your presentation are the words you want them to hear. Generally speaking, if you're going to use photos in your presentation, leave yourself out and stay with stock photography. There are two reasons for this. Firstly, it allows room in the photo for the audience to place themselves in the picture. Think about it. If you're in it, well, there might not be any room for them to be in it. And secondly, a picture of yourself in it will most likely be an amateur photograph, and your presentation will immediately reflect that same level of unprofessionalism. Now, when selecting pictures for your slide presentations, there's usually two roads to take. Which road you choose is going to determine your level of professionalism or the lack thereof. The amateur speaker typically uses Google Images and essentially steals the artistic property of somebody else. Now, in the beginning, by the way, a lot of speakers try saving money. But let me ask you a question. Is saving money really worth sacrificing your integrity and your moral code? With information so readily available online, it's getting easier and easier to download video and pictures from someone else without their permission. And listen, just because someone has their information posted in the public domain, it does not mean that you're given permission to use that information. In some instances, this might not even be illegal, but in the cases where it is, remember this, it's still stealing. Beyond the moral implications of stealing other people's property, there's also the professional impression to consider as well. A picture downloaded from Google Images is most likely going to be low resolution, and when inserted into a slide presentation, it's probably going to be pixelated and low quality. I've even seen some people, by the way, have pictures in their slides that still have the watermark or the copyright infringement warnings on them. Many speakers try saving money using their own photos as well, and rarely do these have the quality to create a good impression. So once again, this is going to reflect poorly on you. The road less traveled in this instance would be the road a professional speaker takes. They purchase their pictures from a stock photography website. This ensures that you have the highest quality resolution and the legal right to use it. And there are 3 sites that I highly recommend. And if you're going to be needing a large quantity of pictures, depending upon how many you need, it'll depend upon the website. So if you're just getting started, you need a large quantity, I think Getty Images and Jupiter Images works really well. They have a membership site that allows you to pay for unlimited downloads each month, so it's far more cost effective in the beginning. If you're only going to need a few pictures occasionally, then I recommend iStockPhoto.com. Now, for most of your work, by the way, these 3 sites will be able to adequately provide all of the background and emotional-based pictures that you're going to need. Well, I think that's good for now. I hope you've enjoyed this brief presentation, and if you found value in this and you would like to continue to receive more tips and tricks on being a professional speaker, then I would be honored to have you download my Living Ebook on this very topic. What is a Living Ebook? Well, it's like any other traditional ebook, but each week you're emailed an additional chapter so the book grows as your knowledge expands. This Living Ebook will continue to grow for an entire year. And by the end, you'll have over 200 pages of powerful insights, insider secrets, and powerful tips to you becoming a highly paid professional speaker. Until then, take care, dare to dream, and make each day an epic adventure. Bye for now.